The board decides the terms. It does not operate the institution. Turning those terms into the way work is actually done falls to the executive, and it is here that most of the distance between governed intent and operational reality is either closed or left open. A board can set a clear appetite for risk and still preside over systems that act well outside it if the executive layer treats the board's decisions as statements to be filed rather than a posture to be built into how the institution runs. Much of the language around executive involvement settles for sponsorship. A senior leader backs the initiative, funds it, lends it visibility. That is the easy part and the least consequential. The harder work and the real role is translation, turning the board's appetite into an operating model, into who owns which system, how it is funded and staffed, the controls that bind it, and the points where a person or a higher authority must be involved. Sponsorship gets a capability built. Translation decides whether it runs inside the institution's intent or merely alongside it. What the executive owns here is the posture, not the technology. That means owning where agentic systems are used and where they are not, the standard they are held to, the assignment of accountability, so every consequential system has a name attached to it, and the escalation path that brings trouble to the right level quickly. None of this is running the systems day to day, which sits lower down. It is making the way the institution operates match the way the board said it should. The part that resists an organization chart is culture. An executive sets by example and by what gets rewarded. Whether the institution treats these systems as something to deploy as fast as possible or as something to deploy only as fast as it can govern. Where speed is the only thing celebrated, controls become obstacles to work around, and the board's appetite stops governing much of anything. Where dependable, accountable operation is the mark of doing the work well, governance is no longer a brake on the business but part of what competence means. And there is a plain accountability point underneath. When the board asks who is answerable for an autonomous system, the answer runs through the executive. The executive can no more pass that to the team that built the system than the board can pass it to the executive. Owning the posture means owning the answer, including for systems one did not design and does not personally run. In our example, the executives of Mithras Bank do not approve each payment the release agent clears. What they own is whether the bank uses release agents at all, the limits those agents run under, who is accountable when one is, and how quickly the bank would know. The board set the appetite. The executive is the reason it shows up in how the bank actually works, or the reason it does not. Boards and executives change, and the technology changes faster than either. The systems described here will not be the systems an institution runs some years from now. The capabilities will grow, the tools will change their names, and much specific advice will date. What will not date is the position leadership has to hold toward any system that acts in the institution's name. It begins with clarity over fashion. Leadership's task is not to take up what is new because it is new, but to be clear about what the institution is for and let that decide what it adopts and what it lets pass. A leader who chases every advance will always be busy and seldom in control. It rests on accountability ahead of novelty. The question that matters about a capable new system is not what it can do, but who answers for what it does. It holds judgment above automation where the two compete. A great deal can be handed to systems, but the decision about what should be handed to them and on what terms is itself a judgment, and automating that judgment gives away the very thing leadership exists to provide. And it is, in the end, stewardship rather than enthusiasm. A leader holds the institution in trust and answers for it long after The excitement of any tool has faded. Enthusiasm builds things, stewardship stays answerable for them. An institution needs both, but only one of them can be in charge. This modulus tool is the board and executive question set. The questions a leader should be able to ask of any agentic system and the shape of a sound answer. Take it into your own boardroom and see which questions come back clear and which come back vague. To carry from this module, oversee the terms, do not run the system. Keep the non-delegable decisions at the top. Risk appetite, the grant of autonomy, accountability for the result. Build the literacy to govern, not to build. Brief on control, exposure and assurance, not activity, and carry bad news upward without waiting for the cycle. Make the executive translate intent into operation with a culture that deploys only as fast as it can govern, and hold the durable stance. Clarity over fashion, accountability over novelty, judgment over automation, stewardship over enthusiasm. Work can be delegated to a system, accountability for it cannot.